Hiya, family. My name is Donna. Some of you may know me as the lady who says, young man. Hiya, family. This is part 11 of Herbert M Shelton's The Science and Fine Art of Fasting. It is from 1934. I'll just be doing the reading of this book. He is snitching. It's over 90 years old. He updated it, I believe, in 1949. But this is for the people whom think that they cannot fast because they don't think it's healthy, when in actuality, it's very, very, very good for your health. So just give me a minute, family, just so I can share this into our small group. Okay.
Yahuwah, my love. 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 Yahuwah, my love.
Okay, family. So, how do I do this? So I just shared it in our small group. Again, this is part 11 of Herbert M Shelton, The Science and Fine Art of Fasting. I hope you find as much value in this as I have. I knew that fasting for me was life-changing. I mean, I've lost over 200 pounds and I have no extra skin at all. And I'm actually reversing the aging process. Seriously, like everything that they said that was going to be, like, I'm trusting in Yahuwah, number one. And then, I mean, he just fixes our temple. Okay, so here we go, family. The Science and Fine Art of Fasting, part 11. Here we go. Rejuvenescence through fasting. Upton St. Clair, Upton Sinclair says, the great thing about the fast is that it sets you a new standard of health. Old and young alike are renewed and have their whole organism repaired and their functions improved. Fasting supplies opportunities to the body to eliminate accumulated excess weight. Regeneration of the body is a ceaseless process. The daily renewal of its cells and tissues prevent old age and early death for a considerable time, despite the worst abuses which are heaped upon the bodies of most of us. Fasting enables the process of renewal to outdistance the processes of degeneration. And the result is a higher standard of health. Regeneration of the flesh, even the very marrow of the bones, is possible through this method. By it, we may actually tear down much of the body and then rebuild it and have a new or renewed one. Sorry, I know this is hard for you. You guys can't read this really unless you screenshot it. Sorry about that, family, but it's just the book's small. When once we have learned that the body is able to rip its structures to pieces and reuse and rearrange their constituents to match and fit its organs, we are prepared to understand how fasting so quickly brings about a rejuvenation of the body. The texture and tone and feeling and look and utility of your organs and functions will be as fine after they have gone through the cleaning, refining process of fasting, as are soiled silks or laces after they have gone through the process of cleaning. The rejuvenating effects upon the skin is visible to all who have eyes to see. Lines, wrinkles, blotches, pimples, and discolorations disappear. The skin becomes more youthful, acquires a better color and a better texture. The eyes clear up and become brighter. One looks younger. The visible rejuvenation in the skin and eyes is matched by manifest evidences of similar but invisible rejuvenescence throughout the body. Most of my readers are familiar with the method of propagating certain plants from cuttings and from buds rather than from seeds. Parts of some plants and of some of the simpler forms of animal life are able to reconstitute the whole plant or animal. Professor Child and others have shown that the reconstitute plants and of some of the simpler forms of animal life are able to reconstitute the whole plant or animal. Professor Child and others have shown that the reconstituted organisms are physiologically younger than the plant or animal from which they were derived. The degree of rejuvenescence in such cases is in general proportionate to the degree of reorganization in the process of reconstruction of the piece into a whole. There is reason to believe, as H. Reimheimer has pointed out, that the virtue of these processes of reorganization and reconstruction lies in the simultaneous reduction of what he thinks is best described as a nutritive overflow. Reorganization and redistribution, as we have already seen, occur in the body of the faster concomitantly and coetaneously with the reduction of surplus nutrition. We know that reduction of a nutritive overflow will not account for all the rejuvenating effects observed, for we see these also in the undernourished, malnourished, and underweight persons. Exhaustive experiments by Professor Margulis have proved beyond a doubt that fasting rejuvenates. He has also shown that the body does not tear down its tissues nor impair them structurally. The cells are reduced in size, but there is little or no destruction of cells except in cases of actual starvation. The nuclei of the cells tend usually to retain their size and lose so little of their bulk that they become relatively larger in proportion to the rest of the cells. Such a cell has the capacity for assimilation and growth which characterizes the cells of embryos and young animals. I'm sorry, family. This accounts for the rapid gains in tissue after a fast. The fine-grained and smooth, almost as that of a child, Drs. Carlson and Kundal of the Department of Physiology of the University of Chicago showed that a fast of 2 weeks temporarily restores the tissues of a man of 40 to the physiological condition of the tissue of a youth of 17. Sorry, family. I'm in a lot of pain right now. I'm sorry. How long this youthful condition can be maintained, these investigators do not know and could not have shown, for they have no knowledge of the causes of the aging process and therefore did not see that these were not returned to after the fast. The fasters simply returned to their accustomed habits of living. Their smoking, drinking, coffee, gross and unintelligent eating, nightlife, etc. Every faster knows that his body and his energies are renewed by the fast, and where he lives properly afterward, he knows that the improvement is lasting. These facts are not new. They were only new to Doctors Carlson and Kundal. Dr. Kundal says, it is evident that where the initial weight was reduced by 45% and subsequently restored by normal diet, approximately 1/2 of the restored body is made up of new protoplasm. In this, there is rejuvenescence. It should be pointed out that much of the 55% of the body that was not lost has undergone rejuvenating changes of great significance. By repeating the rejuvenating fasts as appropriate intervals, the individual can keep himself younger year after year, much younger physiologically than he would otherwise be, in short, stave off old age. E. Schultz, experimenting with fasting hydra, produced positive proof of the rejuvenating effects of fasting, the animals reverting to an embryonic state. Intensive nourishment results in much poisoning in infusions, and a short fast is needed to restore them to youth. A reduction of surfeit is essential to the most vigorous manifestation of vitality. In higher animals, brief hunger has a beneficial effect. Professor C.M. Child of the University of Chicago took some small flat worms which when fed grow old, lazy, and infirm, and chopped them up into small pieces, and each piece grew into a new and young worm. He took some of the old worms and fasted them for a long time. They grew smaller and smaller. Shalom, family. They grew smaller and smaller, living off their own internal resources for months. Then, when they had been reduced to a minimum size, he fed them. They started to grow and were just as young in physiological condition as ever they were. The planarian may continue to shrink until reduced to less than 1/100th of its original size, to a size even below that at which it hatched from the egg. When this point is reached, a supply of food will enable it to grow again. These reduced worms have the proportion of young rather than those of old worms. They look rejuvenated. Professor Child alternately fed and starved a group of these worms and caused them to live over a period of 12 generations. They showed no signs of progressive aging whenever they were large. They were as old as ordinary worms of the same size. Whenever they were small, they were as young as ordinary young worms. It is stated that if we choose to go to the trouble, we should probably keep a single flatworm alternately going up and down the hill of life and never going beyond a certain age limit for periods that would make Methuselah seem very short-lived. Shalom, family. Professor Child tells us, Sense and Rejuvenance, that with abundant food, some species may pass through their whole life history in 3 or 4 weeks. But when growth is prevented through the loss of food, they may continue active and young for at least 3 years. Partial starvation inhibits senescence. The starveling is brought back from an advanced age to the beginning of post-embryonic life. It is almost reborn. It hardly needs to be said that in the larger and more complex form of life, the possibilities of rejuvenescence are more narrowly limited than among the lower forms, such as the planaria. Nevertheless, according to Professor Child, in the organic world, generally, rejuvenescence is a fundamental and important a process as sentience. Professor Huxley, man, sorry, family. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in pain. Sorry. Professor Huxley of England, son of the older Professor Huxley, took some young planaria or earthworms and performed a very interesting and instructive experiment with them. He fed a whole family of these as they ordinarily ate. He isolated one of them and fed it in the same manner, but forced it to undergo at regular intervals short periods of fasting. It was alternately fasted and fed. The isolated worms was still alive after 19 generations of his brothers had been born, lived their regular life cycles, and passed away. The only difference in the mode of life and the diet of this worm and that of his brother worms was his periodic fasts. Excess is fatal to healthy action. A reduction of surfeit is essential to the most vigorous manifestations of vitality. Weissman's observations and the results of tissue culture in the laboratory reveal that there are no limits to the vitality, auto-generated toxins and poisoning from gastrointestinal putrefaction and fermentation are the chief limiting influence upon life. Surfeit produces and fasting elimination are the chief limiting influences upon life. I'm sorry, I repeated that. Surfeit produces and fasting eliminates these. A removal of toxin and surfeit permits tissues regeneration. An experimenter at the University of Chicago procured some insects of a kind, the normal life of which is only 24 hours. He isolated them and placed them where they could not procure food. Instead of starving to death immediately. Shalom, family. Instead of starving to death immediately or dying at the end of their normal 24-hour lifespan, they lived for 15 days. Fasting enabled them to live for 15 generations. Now, these results obtained with the worms and insects only forcefully remind us again that we cannot safely argue from one species to another. Man cannot live for 15 generations by fasting, nor for 19 generations by periodic short fast. Nor can he become a minute man by fasting and then when fed, grow into a new and youthful man, as was the case with the worm. But there is a renewal of man's body to a certain extent. His body does become smaller. He does get rid of his surplus tissues, surplus food, accumulated toxins and diseases, diseased tissues, etc. Fasting produces no organic deterioration, no pathological changes in the organs of the body. This can occur only after the period of starvation is reached. And even when this occurs, complete recovery generally follows upon that supply of proper nutrition. Active growth and regeneration may go on simultaneously with fasting, as Morgulis and other experimenters have shown. Fasting improves the fundamental organic functions and, up to a certain point, increases muscular strength. That some of the cells and tissues are consumed in this process is both natural and necessary, but nothing is lost which nature cannot or will not replace when favorable conditions are afforded her. Her reserves are consumed, and some of the muscular and glandular tissues are sacrificed to sustain the more vital organs. However, the germ of the cell, or its own power to renew itself and to build a new cell, is not destroyed. The nucleus retains its potentiality to rejuvenate the cell after a period of rest, and it recuperates to function with renewed activity after its environment has been freed of deleterious waste by the fast. A great change in cell life and structure takes place during a fast, and is well to continue the fast until this change is complete and nothing but healthy tissue remains. In this way, a new body emerges from the process. It is thin but ready to be rebuilt upon normal lines. After such an overhauling process, when the body has been largely torn down and thrown away, when the accumulated waste and debris of lifetime has been refined or cast out, and after the chemical readjustment occasioned by the fast has occurred, the body that is properly cared for is built anew and its youth renewed. Dr. Carlson found that the increased vigor of the hunger contractions which appeared in fasting lasted for some days after a 5-day fast. He suggests that this effect may be analogous to the general rejuvenating effect of fasting as seen in animals, and intimates that an occasional period of fasting may exert a beneficial influence in renewing vigor and prolonging life, and in increasing one's capacity for work. Experiments upon human beings and dogs performed at the Whole Biological Laboratory of the University of Chicago and reported to the Journal of Metabolic Research showed that a fast of 30 to 40 days produces a permanent increase of 5 to 6% in the metabolic rate, a decrease in the Shalom family. A decrease in the metabolic rate is one of the phenomena of old age. Fasting, by increasing the metabolic rate, produces, as one of its effects, rejuvenation. With toxin deposits cleared up, the body purifies, the blood rejuvenated, or organs renewed, senses improved, digestion and assimilation enhanced, the cells and tissues return to a more youthful condition. Infiltration, effusions, and and the tissues return to a more youthful condition. Infiltrations, effusions, and growths absorbed, dead and dying tissues removed, and new tissues in their places. Body chemistry normalized. The body is in very much the same conditions as the mattress that has been to the factory for renovation and making over. After the fast is cleared away, the accumulation and the devitalized cells, stronger, more vital, and healthy tissue is built to take the place of that which was cast away. Regeneration of the body is brought about through the daily renewal of its cells and tissues, and fasting hastens their renewal. On May 18, 1933, one of the physicians attending Gandhi during his fast at that time reported that on that day, the 10th day of his fast, despite his 64 years from physiological point of view, the Indian leader was as healthy as a man of 40. Well, family, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it at there because I have to adjust this table, because when I say I'm hurting, I am hurting, and that's it for that chapter. Tomorrow, because I think I will go live earlier tomorrow. It's the gain and loss of strength while fasting. That would be what we're reading tomorrow. I'll be coming on in a little bit. We're going to be doing Hallelujah Scriptures, the book of Mark. And I'm going to try to use this thing that our sister sent us. I'm going to try to use it and see if I can. I don't know how I'm going to be on camera, and I don't know how I'm going to switch back and forth, but I'm going to try to figure it out. So you guys won't see it live. So just give me a few minutes, family, so I can just try to adjust this table, so it doesn't hurt me so bad, because it's too high up. I'm short. I love you, family. Shalom.